My dear beloveds, come close, closer still. There are things of this world that touch our bones and break our backs, aches that live in the marrow of our souls. There are sicknesses that no medicine can cure, no surgeon can remove, no therapy can soothe. But hear me today, for I've come not with doubt but with declaration. There is a prayer, oh yes, a prayer that heals disease in seconds, not because the words are fancy, not because the speaker is famous, but because when the heavens lean down and God whispers your name, healing is not delayed. It is delivered. There is a sacred power hidden deep within the chambers of the human heart. It is older than the stars, stronger than the oceans, and more certain than the rising sun. This power is called faith, that unshakable trust, that whispers even when the world shouts no, that shines its light through the darkest nights of doubt, and that holds on with hands trembling but unyielding. Faith is not a timid thing. It does not tiptoe around our fears or wait for perfect conditions to bloom. Faith is a fierce flame. It is a roaring lion that walks boldly into the shadows and demands the dawn. It is the drumbeat of the soul that tells the body, rise, be whole, be healed. When a body is sick, when the mind is weary and the spirit feels crushed beneath the weight of disease, faith becomes the doorway to healing. It is the key that unlocks the invisible gates to miracles. It is the language the divine understands best. Now listen carefully. The prayer that heals disease in seconds is not a magic spell, nor is it a string of words to be repeated mindlessly. It is faith brought to life through prayer. It is the voice of belief speaking so loudly and clearly that it shakes the heavens. And when faith is that strong, healing cannot help but come rushing in. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow without toil, without worry, basking in the light and trusting the earth beneath them. That same trust, that sacred faith, is what calls healing into your body. It is not the doctor's hand alone, nor the medicine's power, but the faith behind your prayer that causes your cells to remember health, your body to remember strength. Faith is the hand that reaches up when everything around you is falling down. It is the light that refuses to be extinguished when the night seems endless. When you pray with faith, you do not merely ask for healing. You claim it as your birthright. There is a story I want you to hold close. A story as old as time and as new as this very moment. It is the story of a woman weak with illness but fierce with faith. She had suffered many years, many days, many nights filled with pain. But she said to herself, if I can only touch the hem of his garment, I shall be made whole. And with that she reached out, not with certainty but with faith. And in that instant, in that second, healing flowed through her like a river breaking through a dam. The years of suffering fled away, replaced by the sweet balm of restoration. That woman teaches us that healing is not a matter of waiting for a miracle to happen someday, but a matter of reaching out now, right now, with faith, enough to move mountains. It teaches us that seconds, those tiny fragments of time, hold within them the power to change everything. And so I tell you, do not measure your faith by the storms around you. Do not let the shadow of doubt snuff out the flame within your heart. No matter how long the journey of sickness has been, the power of healing lives in your faith, in your prayer, in this very moment. When you kneel or when you close your eyes and whisper your soul's deepest plea, bring with it the fire of belief. Let your prayer be a song that the angels carry on their wings, a drumbeat that shakes the earth, a light so bright it scatters the darkness. Speak not with hesitation, but with the strength of one who knows that healing is coming, even if the body has not yet felt its touch. You see, faith is a seed planted in the soil of the Spirit. When watered by prayer, it grows swiftly, growing into a mighty tree that shelters the weary, offering shade to the afflicted, and fruit to the hungry heart. And just as the tree rises tall, so does healing rise within you, often in seconds, often in ways unseen but deeply felt. It is easy to doubt. It is easy to question, especially when the body is weak, when doctors give their reports, when pain presses hard against your ribs. But faith does not wait for proof. It leaps. It soars, it embraces the unseen and calls it real. And here is a truth you must carry like a lantern in the night. The divine honors your faith more than your fear. The heavens lean in closer when your prayer is wrapped in trust. They respond not because of your words alone, but because of the heart behind those words. So when you pray, do not say, "If it be your will." Say instead, "It is done." Say, "I am healed." Say, "I am whole." Say it not because you have seen the evidence, but because your faith has already moved the mountain. In those seconds when your prayer crosses the threshold of heaven, healing rushes in like a mighty river. It does not creep, it does not delay. It floods the dry places of your body, your mind and your spirit. Faith is the hand that holds the healing. It is the breath that breathes life into every cell. It is the song that the universe listens to and cannot deny. And this, my dear friend, is the prayer that heals disease in seconds. A prayer wrapped in the fierce, unwavering, unbreakable faith that no sickness, no pain, no shadow can withstand. So hold tight to your faith, nurture it, speak it aloud, let it rise in your chest like a powerful drum, and watch with a heart open wide as healing comes swiftly, not tomorrow, not someday, but in the very seconds you believe. Because faith, beloved, is the lightning that strikes the darkness and brings forth the dawn, and healing is its glorious light. There is a sacred law, a divine rhythm, a truth, as old as the mountains and as sure as the tides of the sea. When we call, God moves. It is not a promise whispered in soft shadows, but a roar echoing across the vastness of time. When your voice rises in prayer, raw, honest, and from the depths of your soul, the heavens cannot help but bend, cannot help but respond. O child of dust and stardust, do you hear me? When you call, you awaken a force so mighty, so relentless, that the very foundations of despair begin to tremble. There is no distance too great, no burden too heavy, no night too dark for this movement of the divine. It happens in the blink of an eye, the beat of a heart, the breath between sighs. You see, God does not wait for perfect words, nor does he hesitate because of your brokenness. He listens not to your eloquence, but to the earnest cry of your spirit. It is the call, the pure, unfiltered cry for help, that moves mountains and shifts the stars. There is a story hidden in the winds, a story told by the oldest voices, a story you can feel humming in the silence between your prayer. It is the story of a father whose child was drowning in illness. The father's voice broke with desperation, but he called into the vastness, into the unknown, and in that call, the heavens stirred. Healing rushed down like rain on parched earth. The child rose, the sickness fled, the impossible bowed before the power of a call. Heard by God, that is the power you hold. The power to make the invisible visible, to make the impossible possible. When you call, you invite the divine to step into your story, to rewrite the pages filled with pain and fear. When you call, you open a door wide enough for miracles to walk through. But calling is not just about words, it is about presence. It is about showing up in your own life with faith enough to speak, even when your voice shakes. It is about the courage to say, I am here. It is about the humility to acknowledge your weakness and the boldness to ask for strength. And know this, God moves not just in response to a single call, but to a heart that calls persistently, to the prayers whispered in the stillness of the night, to the tears shed in secret, to the songs sung in the silence of the soul. Each call is a drumbeat, a rhythm that summons the power of heaven. When the world turns its back, when doctors say no, when the shadows grow long and the road seems endless, call with all that you are. Call until your voice is raw and your spirit sings. Call until the heavens open and healing reigns. down like manna. Do not fear that your call will go unheard. Do not let doubt steal your voice. God's ears are inclined toward the cries of his children. The divine leans closer when you call in faith, moves swiftly when you call in desperation, and comforts tenderly when you call in sorrow. It is a dance, a sacred dance between the human and the divine. You reach out, God reaches back. You call, God moves. You speak, the heavens respond. Sometimes the movement is gentle, a whisper in the wind, a peace that fills your soul, a quiet strength rising like a tide. Sometimes the movement is mighty, a sudden burst of healing, a door flung open, a chain broken. But always, always the movement is there. It is the response to your call. Imagine the stars in the night sky, each one a promise, each one a witness to the power of a call. They shine because somewhere someone called out, and the divine answered. Your call is no less powerful, your prayer no less important. So call with confidence. Call with the certainty of a child calling. To a parent, call with the boldness of one who knows that the God who created the universe is listening to your every word. Call and watch as the divine moves mountains, parts seas, and brings healing in the blink of an eye. Remember, you are never alone in your call. The angels surround you. The Spirit walks beside you. The Creator waits to move. When you call, the very fabric of heaven shifts. Healing comes not as a distant hope, but as a present reality. Disease does not stand a chance against the power of your call, answered by God's movement. So when your body trembles and your heart falters, when the pain feels endless and the night too long, do this: call. Call with all your might. Call from the depths of your soul. Call until the heavens cannot help but move. Because when you call, beloved, God moves, and in that movement you find your healing, your strength, your peace.
There is a promise, ancient and sacred, etched into the very fabric of our existence. It is a promise whispered by the winds, carried by the rivers, sung by the stars. Healing is not merely a hope, but a divine covenant. It is a spiritual promise, sealed by the breath of God and written upon the heart of every living soul. My dear, this promise is not fragile. It is not a fragile wish sent out on the wings of hope. No, it is a firm foundation, a steadfast truth that undergirds the universe. Healing is as sure as the dawn, as certain as the tides that dance beneath the moon's gentle pull. Too often we look for healing in the world of the seen and the tangible. We seek it in medicines, in treatments, in the hands of those learned in the art of science. And though these gifts are precious and important, the deepest healing, the healing that reaches beyond the skin and the bones, comes from a spiritual place. Healing is a promise from God, a truth spoken through the ages. It is a sacred inheritance handed down to us, the children of creation. To be healed is to be restored, made whole not only in body but in mind and spirit. It is to come home to the very essence of who you were created to be. There is a light inside each of us, a spark of the divine, that sickness cannot extinguish. This light shines even in the darkest moments, even when the body feels weak and the spirit is weary. The promise of healing says, you are more than your illness. You are more than your pain. You are a child of the Most High, and wholeness is your birthright. This promise calls to us across the chasms of fear and despair. It calls us to stand tall in the face of sickness, and to speak with the voice of faith. I am healed, it says. I am whole. And when you claim this promise with the strength of your soul, healing begins, not as a distant dream, but as a present reality. You see, healing is not merely the absence of disease. It is the presence of peace. It is the restoration of balance, the mending of what is broken. It is the rekindling of hope where once there was only shadow. It is the transformation of the heart that no illness can touch. I want you to imagine the great river flowing strong and steady through the land. That river is your spirit, your life force.
your connection to the divine. When illness comes, it is like a dam built across the river, blocking the flow, stopping the current. But the promise of healing is the breaking of that dam. It is the return of the water, rushing back to fill every dry place. And this breaking of the dam does not depend on your strength or your wisdom. It depends on the power of the promise that is bigger than you, that is bigger than the sickness. It depends on the faith you carry, the faith that healing is already yours, even before you see it. There is a story from long ago about a man who was brought to Jesus, unable to walk, burdened by years of illness. His friends carried him, and when they could not reach the crowd, they made a way through the roof and lowered him down into the room. And Jesus, seeing their faith, said to the man, "Your sins are forgiven, and then rise, take up your bed, and walk." And the man did not hesitate. He did not question or doubt. He stood up, healed, because the promise was spoken and he received it in faith. That is the healing I speak of. A spiritual promise spoken by God, accepted by the believer, and made real in the moment of faith. Healing is a dance between the seen and the unseen. It is a union of spirit and body. It is the sacred conversation where God meets human need and responds with love. It is not a question of deserving or earning. Healing is not a prize for the good or a punishment withheld from the bad. It is a gift freely given, a promise that rests on God's heart for each one of us. When sickness tries to define you, remember this promise. When pain tries to claim your soul, hold fast to this truth. You are made for wholeness. You are created for life. The divine breathes healing into your very being. And so the healing you seek, the healing you long for, is already written in the stars, inscribed on the wind, carved into the stone of eternity. It is a spiritual promise that cannot be broken, a covenant of love that reaches into your darkest hours and lifts you up. Let this promise be your anchor, your refuge, your song. When the night is long and the road is hard, sing this promise over yourself. Let it rise from your lips like fire. Let it fill your heart with courage and your spirit with peace. Because healing is not a hope deferred. It is not a wish cast into the void. It is a promise made by the Creator of the universe. A promise kept through every storm and every struggle. Hold on to it, live it, speak it, believe it. For in this promise lies your freedom. In this promise lies your strength. In this promise lies your healing. And when you walk in the light of this promise, disease loses its power, pain fades into the distance, and your soul sings the song of wholeness. This is the truth. Healing is a spiritual promise, a sacred covenant between you and the divine. Claim it, receive it, and know that you are forever whole. There is a power in prayer, not the kind you find in grand cathedrals filled with echoing voices, nor the kind you find in the loud proclamations of many. No, the power of prayer is found in the quiet moments, the whispered words, the secret conversations between your heart and the divine. Prayer is personal, and in its very personal nature it is profoundly powerful. Each prayer is a thread woven into the fabric of your soul. It is your voice reaching out across the vastness, a bridge between your frail human spirit and the infinite strength of God. It is not bound by ritual or formality. It does not demand perfect language or grand speeches. Prayer is simply your soul speaking its truth, naked and unashamed. When you pray, you step into a sacred space. This space is yours alone, a place where no one can judge your words, where no one can dismiss your cries. In this place, your prayer is not just sound or silence, but the very breath of your being. It carries your hopes, your fears, your deepest desires, and your most urgent needs. Prayer is not reserved for the holy or the learned. It belongs to you, to me, to every child who has ever looked to the sky with wonder and need. It belongs to the weary mother, the broken man, the lonely child. Prayer is the language of the human heart, calling out for connection, for comfort, for healing. There is a story that I hold dear, a story that shows how personal prayer can move mountains. It is the story of a woman not unlike you or me, who had suffered much. She came to Jesus, not in a crowd or a grand gathering, but quietly, privately. Her prayer was a simple touch, a whisper of faith, and in that small, personal moment, she was made whole. This story teaches us that prayer does not need an audience. It does not need the approval of others. It needs only your honest heart and your willingness to reach out. When prayer is personal, it becomes powerful, a force that moves not only the heavens, but the very fabric of your life. You do not need a pulpit, a stage, or a congregation to pray. You need only to speak from your soul. Speak your pain, your joy, your hope. Speak your truth. Speak it with courage, with boldness, with the conviction that your prayer matters. Because you matter. Prayer is also powerful because it changes you. It shapes your spirit, strengthens your resolve, and opens your heart to the divine presence. When you pray, you are not just asking for something outside yourself. You are inviting transformation within. There is a fire kindled in the soul by prayer, a fire that burns away fear and doubt, a fire that warms the cold places of your heart. It is in this fire that healing begins, that peace takes root, that hope blossoms. And the power of prayer is not just in the asking, but in the listening. Prayer is a conversation, a sacred dance between you and God. When you pray, open your heart to receive. Listen for the whispers, the nudges, the gentle guidance that comes in the quiet moments. You may not always hear a voice. The answers may not come wrapped in lightning or thunder. They come in stillness, in peace, in the deep knowing that you are not alone. Prayer is also powerful because it connects you to a source greater than yourself. It is a reminder that you are part of something vast and eternal. When you pray, you tap into the wellspring of love, wisdom, and strength that flows from the divine. This connection gives you courage. It gives you hope. It gives you the strength to face whatever comes, knowing that you are held, supported, and loved beyond measure. And so, my dear, make your prayer personal. Let it be your own. Let it be raw and real. Let it rise from the depths of your soul like a song that only you can sing. Speak it with all the power you have, because that power is born in your honesty and your faith. No one else can pray no one else can speak your heart's cry. Your prayer is a sacred gift, a powerful act of creation, a lifeline to the divine. When you embrace this truth, you will find that prayer becomes more than a ritual or a habit. It becomes a lifeline, a sanctuary, a source of endless strength. In those moments when the world feels heavy, when your body aches, when your spirit is weary, turn inward. Speak your prayer with the fierce love and the unshakable faith that only you can bring, because prayer, beloved, is personal and powerful. It is the language of your soul, the song of your heart, the bridge to your healing, and in that sacred space, miracles happen. Faith is the fire that burns within the soul. A flame that does not flicker in the face of storms, but blazes brighter when the winds howl fiercest. It is the heartbeat of healing, the invisible thread that weaves through the tapestry of recovery and restoration. Without faith, healing is like a seed dropped on barren ground, a promise left unclaimed, a river without water. See, faith is not a fragile thing. It is not the faint whisper of hope, but the roar of a lion deep in the night. It is the unwavering belief that what you cannot see is still true, that beyond the shadows, beyond the pain, beyond the limits of the flesh, there is a power greater than all the sickness and sorrow combined. Faith is the language of the Spirit. It speaks in silence and in storms. It tells the story of a woman who for 12 years carried the weight of illness. She walked through the crowd unseen and unnoticed, yet her faith was her shield. She believed so deeply that just a touch of the garment of the healer would restore her life. And when she reached out, the healing flowed, not because of the touch alone, but because her faith activated the power within. Oh, my child, listen well. Faith is not passive. It does not sit quietly in the corner waiting for miracles to arrive. No, faith moves. It stretches its arms wide and calls forth the power of the divine. It awakens the forces of heaven and commands them to work on your behalf. Faith does not demand proof before it acts. It does not wait for the symptoms to vanish before it speaks hope. Faith claims the healing as a present reality. even when the body tells a different story. It is the voice that says, I am healed, even when the eyes see illness. To activate healing through faith, you must first believe that healing is possible. You must hold that belief like a precious gem, guarding it against the doubts and fears that try to steal it away. You must nurture it with prayer, with words of power, with the unyielding conviction that you are meant to be whole. Faith opens the door to miracle. It is the key that unlocks the chains of sickness and sets the captive free. It is the wind that fills the sails of hope and carries across the stormy seas of suffering. When you live in faith, you are not bound by the limitations of the world. You walk in the realm of the supernatural, where the impossible bends before your prayer. Your faith calls forth angels to minister. It calls forth strength where there is weakness. It calls forth light where there is darkness. And faith is not a solo journey, it is a fire passed from one soul to another, a flame that grows brighter when shared. When you pray with faith, you invite others to join you. You create a chorus of belief that echoes through the heavens and shakes the foundations of despair. But faith also requires action. It calls you to step forward, to rise up, to stand tall in the face of your fears. It asks you to live as if the healing has already come, to walk as if your body is whole, to speak as if your spirit is unbroken. This is the power of faith. It changes not only what happens around you, but what happens within you. It transforms your mind, your heart, your very being. It fills you with courage, with peace, with the unshakable certainty that healing is not just a wish, but a promise. There will be moments when your faith is tested, when the night grows long and the road seems endless. Do not let these moments silence your faith. Instead, let them be the forge that strengthens it. Let every trial, every pain, every doubt become the fuel that makes your faith burn brighter. Remember the stories of old, the stories of those who walked by faith and saw the impossible become possible. They did not have stronger bodies or easier lives. They had faith that moved mountains. And so must you. Let your faith be a fire that cannot be quenched. Let it be the beacon that guides you through the darkest valleys. Let it be the drumbeat that rallies your spirit to stand firm and to call out for healing. Because faith activates healing. It is the power that changes the course of your life. It is the breath that breathes life into your weary bones. It is the song of hope that will never be silenced. Hold on to your faith, beloved. Nurture it, cherish it, and watch as it brings forth the healing you need in the time you need. For faith, when embraced fully and lived boldly, becomes the very hands of God reaching down to heal, restore, and make whole.
Trust. Such a small word, yet it carries the weight of mountains and the depth of oceans. Trust is the silent river flowing beneath the storms of life, the steady heartbeat in the midst of uncertainty. It is a sacred thread that weaves through the tapestry of healing, binding hope and patience into a promise that all things unfold in their divine time. When disease grips the body and shadows cloud the mind, when the night seems too long and the dawn too distant, trust is the companion who holds your hand and walks with you through the valley. Trust is not blind or naive, it is courageous and wise. It is the knowing that even when the path is unclear, the journey itself is sacred and necessary. You see, healing is not always swift. It does not always come wrapped in bright ribbons and immediate relief. Sometimes healing is a slow unfolding, like a flower blooming in the quiet dawn, petal by petal, layer by layer. And to embrace this unfolding, to embrace the waiting and the wondering, requires trust. Trust means surrendering control. It means releasing the tight grip of fear and doubt and opening your heart to the wisdom of the divine plan. It is the faith that every moment, every breath, every tear, every prayer is part of the process of restoration. There is a power in waiting, a strength in patience. The earth teaches us this truth, how the seed lies beneath the soil, hidden and unseen, gathering strength before it breaks the surface. So must we trust that beneath our pain, beneath our struggle, something beautiful is growing.
something that will rise and bloom in its own perfect time. Trust is not a passive act. It is an active surrender. It is the daily choice to say, I will believe even when I cannot see. I will hope even when the night is long. I will hold on to faith even when my strength falters. This trust is the fertile soil in which healing takes root. Without it, doubt and despair choke the life from our dreams. But with it, hope flourishes. Faith grows, healing blooms. The journey of healing may take you through dark forests and across rocky mountains. You may stumble, but trust is the hand that lifts you, the voice that whispers, keep going, beloved, you are not alone. And in this trust you find peace, a peace that surpasses understanding, a peace that holds you steady when the winds of fear threaten to knock you down. Trust also means believing in the goodness of the process, that every step, no matter how painful or slow, is moving you closer to wholeness. It means embracing the lessons hidden in suffering, the growth born of struggle, the strength forged in endurance. There is a story told many times over of a man who was blind but longed to see. He waited, he hoped, he believed, and when the time was right, his sight was restored. But that restoration was not instant, it was a journey, and he trusted the process, the waiting, the healing, the becoming. So must you. Trust the process even when it feels like your prayers go unanswered. Trust the process even when your body feels weak and your spirit falters. Trust the process even when the world seems silent and the night is cold. For healing is not just a destination, it is a journey. A sacred journey of transformation that changes not only your body but your soul. It is a journey that calls you to trust, to hope, to believe, to surrender.